Hello! So my today's subjects will be about beauty standards in general and do you actually fit in? Or I would say, do you have to fit in? And if yes, then why do you have to fit in? But I hope we're gonna find the answers in the end of this video. First of all, I asked myself a question: how do those beauty standards appear? What influenced on it? Many thousands of years ago, many centuries years ago, many decades years ago, people used to live in a certain way. They occupy a certain territory on our planet Earth. This territory has certain climate, certain nature, certain traditions, certain way of living, certain relationship between people and especially between men and women, some scientific developments, war between one group of people and another. Then there were some people in those different time periods who could really set up a standard based on how famous they are and why they became famous. So these people could kind of set up a standard for that place or for that time or for both. Also the ideas, how people looked at life in general, people's religion, also traveling. Some people could travel from one place to another and meet a totally different culture and totally different people in that culture. So they kind of brought some of that new visual ideas into their own group of people. We're not gonna go deep into the history of beauty and fashion today, but let's just look back a little bit. So when I looked at the history examples, I noticed one interesting thing, that disagreement or protest can also create a new beauty trend. We're gonna see some examples now. Trend appears. At that time, when it just appears, it normally makes sense. It's serving a certain purpose in that particular environment. So it's doing something. Many things influence on that. Relationships, traditions, ideas. Then in some time, more and more people follow that. And some people do that to such a degree when it becomes over-exaggerated. And bit by bit, people forget about the first purpose that it served for. Maybe the environment changed. The ideas changed. Maybe it's not serving a certain purpose in that group of people, but they still do that just for the purpose of that beauty standard and make it that super exaggerated. And many more people are doing that, even if that doesn't kind of fit them. Then another group of people appears. The protesting group of people who is protesting against that beauty standard. And they say, I'm gonna do the opposite thing. They're protesting against that particular trend. So they create kind of their own trend based on the opposite things. So sometimes this is how trends appear, with disagreement and with opposite things. Let's look at some examples. Before 20th century, a bit earlier, women didn't have same rights as men. They couldn't get same money as men. They couldn't work like men. And of course that influences on the way people look. And it does create some trends. Different factories are opening in the world. So they need somebody to work there. And women said, we want to work in there. Electricity appeared. And with that electricity, trams. The door of the tram was too narrow. They couldn't go inside with that puffy skirt anymore. So the skirts started becoming narrower and narrower. That serves a purpose of changing the environment, right? In 1900, women had corsets. That was pretty dangerous. But they did have corsets. They needed to have that tiny waist, puffier chest and puffier hips area, puffier hair on top. All that seemed very beautiful. Just in a couple of decades, how much things changed. So they started to be against that super feminine beauty. They started protesting. They said, we also have rights. What they started to do, they were wrapping their chest. They didn't show their waist anymore. Instead of that, they did a completely opposite thing. They made their dresses super straight, at the same level with the hips. They cut their hair short. Remember Daphne and Josephine? That was slightly easier for them to become women. Straight dresses, pretty short hair and stuff. Imagine they had to turn into women in the 50s when the femininity was a trend. In the 50s, women waited for men coming back from war. They had to be beautiful. They had to be very feminine and sexy. They needed to create a family, so that look served a certain purpose. In some time, closer to the 60s, it kind of became slightly exaggerated. The Good Wife's Guide. Remember that? They had a certain rules, how the woman should act when her husband is coming back from work. Take 15 minutes to rest, so you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup. Be happy to see him. Greet him with a warm smile. And show sincerity in your desire to please him. You have no rights to question him. A good wife always knows her place. And so on and so on. So it was the time of housewives. As soon as they woke up, they made their hair a certain way, they made their makeup a certain way. They could wear red lipstick whole day, since morning till night, when she's cooking, when she's vacuum cleaning and stuff. And then the new generation in the 60s, teenagers were like, what? In the 60s, they again started protesting a little bit against those 50s rules. They were born in different environments, so for them, that 50s kind of set of rules was boring, annoying. But even in the 60s, there were two protesting groups, like subculture, they call it, mods and rockers. Rockers, they were listening to rock music, they were wearing leather jackets, they were riding motorcycles, they had certain hair, certain boots, certain clothes, and then they were mods. Lighter music, jazz, they rode scooters, they were wearing different costumes. There was a real fight that happened on the streets. Even within one time, there were groups that were protesting against each other. They were setting a certain trend. That was definitely the time of younger generation. Mini skirts appeared. High boots, slightly straight silhouette. Therefore, the body and the beauty standards changed a little bit. So you didn't have to have those curves and femininity and that lushness of your lips or anything else anymore. You did different things to achieve that beautiful look. Back-combed hair, straight bobs, very bright makeup of the eyes. Can anybody do that? Of course. It doesn't matter which size of your eyes is. Make that huge makeup, exaggerate everything. And then lips. Did you have to have full lips? Not really, because you made your lips pale. That wasn't the focal point. Just imagine in the 60s, if they created that technology to inject the cheekbones. Do you think loads of women would dream about it, to go and to inject cheekbones or lips? Of course not. It didn't serve the purpose. It was not needed at that time. Then what we see in the end of the 60s. Big cities, factories, industrial step up. And of course there were some people who started protest against it, and they said, okay, back to nature, guys. Here's like concrete jungles everywhere. So there's a group of people who tries to stop that. And then we have hippies. No need in back-combing hair, no need in makeup, no need even in haircut. It's just growing down, that's it, that's all you need. You can even go sometimes without any clothes and you feel great. A lot of drugs though, they really believe that free your mind, which is not true. You can see how one group of people is protesting against something, especially when this something becomes exaggerated. If in the 60s they had such a bright eye makeup without even blending too much, they literally draw the lashes on their faces. Then 70s, totally against it, barefaced, just suntan, kids of nature, such a difference. Did it become a trend? Yes, for sure. They still don't do surgery in the majority cases. They just don't need it because of the beauty standard, because of the viewpoint on life and on the bodies is just not needed. They would consider that as ugly even. 80s, they were crazy about colorful stuff because cameras could show now colors. They invented that quality cameras that could show the colors. You probably have seen it in my history of makeup videos where I explained how cosmetic industry developed and why we have that kind of cosmetics that we have now. I'm gonna leave the link down below on those 3 parts of my videos if you're interested. So what is in there? Perm, huge hair, huge shoulders, sportswear. Not as much of exaggeration of the figure. Loads of oversized clothes, oversized hair. Glam rock is happening at that time. Huge earrings, huge bombers, mom jeans. And also let's not forget the fact that it was MTV, TV channel that showed video clips, music videos. And when you're filming music videos, that's such a huge field of experimenting with different kinds of makeup, hair, and clothes styles because the camera can show everything. So it's not that much about protesting against something. I think it's just the new possibilities. And you just can't miss it. You just want to have everything at once. You finally have access to all that. So you still didn't eat enough of that. You are still not fed up with that. Again, did they want to go for that surgery thing? Some did, but most people still didn't need it. It was different directions in the beauty standards. That was more about making that all very colorful, exaggerated. Those eyeshadows that were up to the brow. Remember in my video, 80s makeup? I'm gonna leave the link down below. 90s was so-called heroin chic. Kate Moss was very popular at that time. 90s supermodels, remember? That was different era in fashion. Things started changing. If before you kind of got the figure and you made the dress for that specific figure, after that you kind of was trying to find the figure to fit all those dresses without too much work on the shape of the garment. If there's a woman who has a figure, you spend a little bit more time in creating a certain shape of a dress, of a top, of a jacket for her, but it's much easier when you are totally straight just to create that nice sitting clothes piece. And those clothes pieces started to creating in a huge amount, so they were trying to find the models with certain parameters. Did it become trendy? Yeah, of course, because they were famous. Makeup artists did beautiful makeup on them and beautiful hair. And fashion designers made clothes specifically for them so it would look good on the podium. Does it mean like they were more beautiful than other girls? Of course not. It's just the trend thing. It's just something that is presented as beautiful. If that's famous, that equals beautiful. Another subculture that happened in the 90s was grunge. As I know, there was some kind of economical problem when teenagers, young people, they couldn't just afford even to rent a space for themselves, so they lived like many of them in the same room. Imagine so many people are wearing diamonds and everything is very expensive, and you just passing by, you don't have enough money even to go to a salon and cut your hair. You have two choices. First one is feel yourself a total loser and trying to pretend that you have that money, and you're trying to fake that just to show how rich you are and that you're not a loser in life. Or you have a second choice. Protest against it very loudly and make a new trend, a trend that makes everybody wearing diamonds feel very stupid. You are exaggerating that to a point when you are wearing everything with holes and that kind of checked shirts instead of the diamonds. Just black ribbon that costs nothing. That is a choker. Not that much makeup, brown pencil on the lips, maybe some black here, some mascara, very pale face, matte face, not so much glitter, not so much shimmer, hair that is not done. Kind of a protesting movement, protesting against that. It's just the attempt to feel cool and to feel that you live your full life. And you don't feel yourself less than others and a loser. This is just your position. That's just your style. Who said that black ribbon here is less beautiful than all those diamonds that you hang on your head? And then that becomes trend. And then rich people, they take off those diamonds and they get that black ribbon. That just looks cool. Somebody created that idea and it became pretty popular and pretty powerful. That no matter what you wear, it can become trendy. Did they do a lot of surgery at that time? Not this much, but it definitely became more and more because Pamela Anderson, she got those huge boobs. They started making that facelift. 2000s. Now, I have a question for you. How would you describe that style? I think 2000s is like a summary of everything that happened before without understanding when exactly in the past that particular piece was beautiful. Because every piece that was beautiful in the past, it was a part of the overall outfit. It kind of suited everything else. But in 2000, it was kind of, just the summary. I remember in the beginning of 2000s, they have very popular, pretty short though, trend top with ribbons, kind of 19th century, and you was wearing that with pretty wide jeans with lowered waist. So all that was kind of combined together, and people started to rethink everything that happened before. Obviously, all those historical moments of the past, they were really defined. You could recognize them. But in the 2000s, I think that all kind of mishmashed and it didn't become a certain kind of a style. This is when surgery is becoming more and more popular. I couldn't define that time. When I look back in 2010, I can say that this is the time when internet becomes more powerful than TV in terms of influencing in the way how people look and in terms of setting the beauty standards. We have phones with cameras. We start doing selfies. And filters become very popular because the filter is making your face look good even if you make your selfie with a bad lighting. Filter is removing any unwanted shadows. It's making your skin shine from within, and many filters, they add kind of same coloration. And what it does is very pleasing to the eye when everything has kind of a greenish tint, for example, right? So, and our eyes recognize that green in the shadows, in the room, in the face. The photo doesn't look as real. It looks processed. People started loving it. Then as every trend, everything becomes too exaggerated. So they started appearing other types of photos saying no filter. If you don't have a filter, then you probably see everything that is happening on your face. When somebody is making a photo of you with a different lighting, then you kind of don't like it. So women and men spend much more time looking at themselves on pictures. Before that, they didn't have that much attention on their own body. They were kind of living their life. In 2010s, YouTube became very popular. Many beauty bloggers appeared at that time. Based on that, cosmetic industry started producing new and new products. This is how we get HD foundations. This is how we get all those HD products just because, so on camera, on selfie, if you make a selfie, especially with the daylight, everything is kind of seen. The filter is not that popular anymore last several years, so you kind of have to find that beautiful angle of yourself for your selfie. And people who don't want to go to the surgery, they use different face tuning programs just to make their face look like that chic, sexy glam girl has. This is how we got that Instagram makeup trend. When makeup brands are sending you tons of makeup and they pay you money so you would talk about them, of course you would come up with loads of ideas how to use all those products, and instead of 5 you would start using 100 on the same face. Sometimes not because you want to, but because you're paid for that. This is becoming a profession, to have all those makeup products on your face at the same time. You teach other people how to blend those 7 eyeshadows on your eyes, how to use this or that brush, and why this brush doesn't fit for that particular blending than the other brush. So it's a very interesting time because internet is ruling, and photos and selfies. Last year's everything is changing pretty fast, that's what I can say. And there are definitely girls and groups of girls that are contradicting that trend. They are against that Instagram makeup. They try to make it all more natural. Also in 2010s, reality shows become much more popular than just a regular TV shows, and Kim Kardashian is becoming the one who sets the trends. Now, she obviously has nothing to do with 90s supermodels in terms of the body, not in terms of the face, but the body. Small with blunt and slightly wide bones, wider hips. I think she injected something in her bum and making the waist small, making everything flawless, highlighting technique. Then people just were tired to find a good lighting and a good angle. They started feeling not very nice. They started injecting many things in their faces so they would look good from any angle, from any light. So they would have that almost mannequin face that from any angle, from any light would look kind of good. One English artist, Matt Maitland, shows us on these pictures how those beauty icons from 20th century would look now on Instagram. And we can see that their faces look slightly sick, swollen, kind of not for them. That obsession to be like everyone else, that obsession to over-sexualized body and face. I also decided, to try for the first time in my life to make that famous Instagram over-the-top kind of makeup. I actually filmed this. I don't know if I'm gonna upload it on my channel because I don't have that type of videos too much, but if you would like to see that, of course I can upload this video in a week. So just let me know in the comments if you want to see that. It was just more fun video than a tutorial actually, because I was kind of following those most popular tutorials for that heavy, glamorous, sexy makeup for the first time actually on my face. Because as you can see, my makeup was different. It's mixture with American and European. And I like experimenting. From time to time I go from heavier makeup to lighter makeup. I just love experimenting still. So as we come back to that time, selfie now sets up the rules for that. And within that trend, we still can see some groups of people who are against it. So when they're against it, they kind of invent a new trend that is opposite to this trend. Any of the trends can become exaggerated and kind of be the rule for the rule. So the rule for the sake of the rule. But my personal opinion is everything that is praising the nature, praising the natural things is just a much healthier way to look at life. But even that natural trend can also be exaggerated to that degree when you just stop washing your hair. That's also not very ideal for us. So we can see loads of examples in the history when some beauty trends, they exaggerated to such a degree when they become dangerous, and really we just don't know how many bad things are happening after those injections. They just don't talk about that. They don't talk about forever ruined faces. They don't talk about it because there's a lot of money in there that might scare other clients. If you just believe in something and you stop looking, that's when problems appear. Because tradition without understanding is just becoming a ceremony without serving a purpose of life. That's just my thoughts about all that. Brands were making those false lashes and they were sending them to YouTubers, and girls started using them more and more, created that very popular glam, like unrealistic slightly makeup, like a drag queen makeup. And then girls kind of fed up with putting on the glue and the lashes all the time, so they just go to the salon now to get lash extensions. And as I said in one of my previous videos, I don't find it attractive on many faces. So there's like a certain amount of faces that look nice with those lash extensions, and also when the lash extensions are not very rich. When they're rich, that requires a drag queen makeup all the time. And you have those very rich lash extensions. In many cases it looks heavy, in many cases that looks slightly funny. That's my viewpoint again. Because I saw some examples when girls look really beautiful with some lash extensions. Wispy, slightly longer and not that rich. So that's a beauty trend that happened recently. It happened because of many things in the world were happening, including the cosmetic industry, how that developed. But the good point here is, if you educate a little bit yourself in that subject, you kind of stop depend on those ideas too much. You have such a vast viewpoint on that. And also I realized that there are like so many beautiful trends nowadays, beauty trends, that go against that super polished drag queen Instagram look. Girls that go against that, they make beautiful pictures without any makeup. And they still inspire loads of people. So loads of people are subscribed on them. And this is what makes me feel pretty calm about it, makes me feel nice. And what is also beautiful in our time is that before there were models who did great photo shoots, beautiful pictures. You couldn't imagine looking good if you didn't have a good professional makeup artist and hairstylist and a fashion designer. And nowadays, every girl can become her own best makeup artist, most professional one, best hairstylist, and best fashion designer. Girls who don't have much money, they can play with cheaper stuff just to understand what fits better on them. But they can play with all that stuff, they can learn from YouTube how to do their makeup and their hair, and they just become new generation of models. Models with not standard figures, not like 90s supermodels. You don't have to be tall, you don't have to be thin. You don't have to have super classic face, super huge lips, or a certain bone structure to start creating your brand. It all depends on your taste, your creativity. So many people follow you if you set up your own brand. That's my philosophy on beauty. Don't be scared to go against the mainstream and never invalidate yourself. So in the end of this video, let's go back to the questions that we had in the beginning. The beauty standards, do you fit in or do you have to fit in? Now I see the answer is no, especially now. Thank you so much. If you like my videos, you can support me on Patreon. It helps me to keep going, and I will see you very soon. Bye!